Welcome to this podcast from Asian Agribiz that addresses onboarding technology. I'm Rush Ramani, and today we will be listening to our editorial director Connie Pereira asking pertinent questions about how technology is changing livestock farming in Asia. Our guest Gordon Butland, director of GNS Agriconsultant, is a key figure in the animal protein industry, and he's based in Thailand.
Good morning, Gordon.
Morning.
And thank you for agreeing to this interview, to this podcast. In 2003, 2004, we saw a big shift happen in Thailand as a result of avian influenza that decimated poultry flocks across Asia. Until then, Thailand was the fourth largest raw chicken exporter in the world. But with cooperation from the government, the private sector blew off the dark clouds and literally overnight transitioned to cooked poultry products. And this naturally required investment in technology and a drastic shift in focus. But producers need to be nimble to accept change. In the last decade, or following the economic crisis of 2008, producers in Asia have been plagued with multiple challenges: labor issues, disease challenges, free trade agreements, growing imports, and now COVID 19. Gordon, let's talk about imports and free trade agreements. With growing meat consumption in Asia, we've seen a significant inflow of cheaper imports from more technologically advanced countries that has disrupted local producers. How can local producers rise up to this challenge and become more self sustaining and competitive?
Well, firstly, the question insinuates that we are more expensive because we are not technologically advanced, and I honestly don't agree. There are two main reasons why we get cheap imports. One is that the raw materials. So, give you an example: corn today in Thailand is 8 baht, 89 baht, and in Brazil it is 5 baht. So you cannot compensate that by technology. And then the second reason of why you get cheap imports of certain parts is because the exporters to this region, i.e., basically the U.S., Brazil, especially U.S. and Europe, where they cannot get rid of all their parts, and then it's not a question of cost. So they are selling leg products at $600, $700, $800 a ton because that's that they can get more money exporting to here than they can in their domestic market. So unfortunately, we could be the most technologically advanced on the planet, and we are not going to be able to compensate from a price point of view. Okay. Now the intra-regional trade then. I do think that COVID has made everybody think about their supply chains all along the chain. And I do see, and I have already heard, that countries first will be worried more about their food security, independent that maybe the actual price of products will be maybe slightly higher. But we've known for many, many years that Singapore is always worried about their food security. And I think this will be addressed. And I do see more product being moved around ASEAN. One, because it takes a few days to come from Brazil or the US. You're talking usually about 40 days. And now with this situation in China, where they have supposedly found contamination in the packaging of one product or one container or whatever it is, even though it is in my opinion, very difficult to happen. But once it's out there, then people will lose confidence. And I think it is much easier for people to rely on something that's coming from close by. But having said that, here in Asia, we cannot produce the quantity that's required and only then the Brazils and the US can do that. Also, we have another problem in Asia. We don't like the breast meat. So if we produce more and more, then we have a problem. We don't know what to do with the breast meat. So it is a complex equation. But I do see a lot of emphasis being placed on food security by countries.
Thank you. Let's talk about profitability and food safety, which are primary concerns for producers. The elephant in the room is technology. That is one of the keys to food safety. What will this do to prices?
Tied into food safety is biosecurity, animal welfare, etc. And people tend to think that the extra expense is just an extra cost. But many times you are getting the benefits, better animal welfare, less food bat problems. And when you go into a supermarket, the second highest price is for the feet, twice the price of a skinless, boneless breast. You are getting a revenue protection. And from a food safety point of view, yes, you might increase the cost a little bit, but I don't see huge increases in cost because of this. No.
So then you would say that this is an opportune time for more investment in technology?
Yes, more investment and more focus. A lot of these things are not rocket science. And many times is to make sure that the standard operating procedures that are in place are actually followed, and that means maybe better internal auditing. But Thailand, because maybe a little bit because of our history that you mentioned in 2004, we really have a very strong auditing system for certification, especially for Europe, and that becomes then the standard for everybody else. And I would say that we are very, very strong in the biosecurity, etc. The only place maybe where, when I compare to Brazil, the actual inspection in the slaughterhouses in Brazil is much, much, much tougher than in Thailand. I think on the farms we are as good as anybody else. I often say that our biosecurity on our broiler farms, sometimes it's similar to the biosecurity on breeding farms in other parts of the world. So there I have no problem.
So with each wave of disease or economic challenge, we see consolidation. Smaller, less efficient farmers either exit or are bought out. How do you see this landscape evolving in terms of technology adoption?
You have Thailand, where you have more and more company-owned complexes, not even farms. You have complexes of all the major companies with 3 million broilers, and that you cannot get away with not having the technology. Certain companies here, the overall manager for he's got 5-10 screens on his wall, and he can go into any house, any farm, any time, and see what's happening. And there are more and more automation coming. There's not been enough investment yet, and not enough understanding. But with this automation and digitalization of sensors in the houses, with temperatures, humidities, wind speed, all these things, it's there. And it's not quite so costly, but at the moment we don't have enough people. When I say people, not on the farms, the companies themselves, we don't have enough people, vets, etc., who understand what this data means. So this overall automation, I have been personally disappointed, because I got very enthusiastic over the last couple of years and went down a few avenues. A lot of reluctance on the part of companies to adopt it, but that was more not the fault of the companies, but the people who had and have this technology. They had difficulty to show the potential customers, the actual potential financial benefit. What is the return on investment?
So you are actually saying that companies need to upscale the capability of their employees?
Yeah, well, when we say employees, this is not the. I'm saying that some of our professions in the veterinary area, animal husbandry area, we have to be more sophisticated. A lot of the younger generation who should be really hands-on with all these things, there's not enough knowledge of what is big data, what is the effect of each of these very sophisticated things in a poultry house. What should they be? So what should exactly be the humidity at each part of the slaughterhouse? What should be the temperature on the ground, in the middle, on the top, etc.? And the vets they will adhere. And to implement new things on the farm, you're looking to the vet or the animal husbandry person to teach the farm or the house manager what to do. So, and here the universities have a part to play. I would like to see much more in the curriculum. I'm seeing this already with some of the universities in Thailand, a focus on this modern technology, because it has to start somewhere. You can't pick everything up by reading a book, and not everybody is so involved that they will be looking for it all the time.
Yes. Gordon, you spoke about contamination, with virus. You spoke about supply chain disruptions and imports as well as a result of FTAs. What are your views on intra-regional trade in view of the challenges that COVID-19 has sprung on the animal protein industry?
I see it increasing, and then it's up to the Thailands, even maybe the Singapore in a different way, to understand what the other countries need. There's still quite a lot of protectionism, as you know, and I think it's the way to go. One thing we haven't touched on, that the habits of people are going to change significantly. One, because of the pocket, and secondly, that the health side of it, the health and well-being. We are seeing in more and more webinars, articles, how people now, they were always worried about the health and the well-being, but they focused even more now. So I do see a huge opportunity. It's not going to be easy. And then I go back to the first question. As we producers, we have to understand much more for consumers. We just don't spend enough time. Technology, I'm always bemused a little bit that I go to a company and I can get the feed conversion to 4 decimal points, the mortality to 3 decimal points. What's the yield in the slaughterhouse to 3 decimal points? And then I ask them how many points of sale they've got, and they look at me as if it was rocket science. People who pick up the changes of what's happening, and etc. They're going to be the winners. When you see the webinars of the Nielsen's, of the Kantars, etc., yeah, and then you get an idea of how things are changing on the macro scale. But then how does that affect my industry, my country, and my company? And there, I think the technological, and there's a lot of technology there to trace where you sell, what you sell, etc. But you don't have the same, I would say, intellectual focus in the marketing area. The knowledge is there, or technical and computer capabilities are there. It's then how do you apply those to what we need in terms of information. If we don't have the information, then we cannot make the changes and the decisions we need to make.
Finally, Gordon, I'd like to go back a little bit to employment. The big worry these days is that automation is going to displace employees. What do you think? Is this going to happen in the animal protein sector?
No, and don't forget first, this displacement, it's difficult to get the people in the first place. It's well known in Thailand, many of our actual workers in slaughterhouses on farms are from neighboring countries. That also won't go on forever. I would say as Myanmar, for example, develops, and it's developing fast, a lot of these people will be going back home. So I see it really a lot of the automation not to displace people, but to actually to resolve or issue of having the labor in order to, even in China, okay, they don't have immigration into China, but they have to bring a lot of people. And where it is, I think there's a lot of opportunity for even new professions, direction the education in the right place. So I'm not worried about displacing workers because we just can't get the workers usually in the right place at the right time.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Gordon.
I hope you found this discussion beneficial. Do download it at www.asian-agribis.com and share it with others in the industry. Look out for our future topics on how the animal protein industry in Asia is expanding, transitioning, and inspiring the food sector in a myriad of innovative ways. This is Rush Ramani, signing off for Asian Agribis.